Paula, interesting situation we have here. What do we know about the incident so far?
Well, what we know is that at around 5 o'clock local time Saturday evening, the US-led coalition planes carried out 4 airstrikes in the Deir ez-Zor region of eastern Syria. As you say, 62 Syrian soldiers were killed and around 100 more were injured. The Syrian army was holding a position that was surrounded by Islamic State, who they were fighting. But the strike subsequently gave Islamic State a chance to advance into the territory. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry confirmed that the Islamic State offensive began right after the Syrian army position had been compromised and hit from the air. And this was echoed by the Syrian Army General Command that said that after the strikes, to quote, the way was paved for Islamic State militants to advance. As a result, Russia, along with other allies, was forced to send forces to fight the jihadists in that territory. And that's why the Russian Foreign Minister spokesperson, Maria Zakharova, suggested the White House is defending Islamic State. Now, the United States, for its part, has issued a statement admitting that the strike was a mistake.
That's RT's Paula Sleer with an update on the situation in Syria. Thanks, Paula. Now, after the attack, Russia called for an emergency UN Security Council meeting behind closed doors. The US ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power, branded Russia's call, quote, cynical and hypocritical. RT News editor Igor Zhdanov has the details.
Of course, everybody was anticipating Samantha Power, the U.S. ambassador to the UNSC, and her Russian counterpart, Vitaly Churkin, to take podiums. And Samantha Power was the first one to, I would say, vent her anger publicly, to vent her outrage in front of the media. And when I say outrage, I'm not exaggerating, because she was furious about having to convene, about being summoned on Russia's call to discuss the airstrike. And this is something that she didn't really address in her speech properly. She kind of sidelined the whole airstrike thing. Let's actually have a listen as to what she had to say.
Russia decided to join the Assad regime, escalating the conflict, and perhaps worst of all, itself adopting some of the regime's worst practices, hitting hospitals, hitting refugee camps. And they're calling this emergency meeting? Really? Now, because of a single airstrike, a strike that, if it struck regime forces, did so in error, a strike that we have swiftly acknowledged and committed to investigating.
Vitaly Churkin took podium right after his American counterpart, and as he revealed that Samantha Power did not hold back on her hard feelings behind closed doors as well. In fact, by her approach, she managed to surprise even Vitaly Churkin. Let's have a listen to how he describes what happened behind closed doors.
As I was talking in the Security Council, sharing our analysis and frustration over the situation of Syria, Ambassador Power chose to talk to you. The only thing her deputy had to say in response to my comments was that the US is investigating what has happened at Deir ez-Zor. As Ambassador Power walked in, first thing she said, she was not interested in what I had to say, because what I was saying is a stunt.
Well, so the Russians called this UN Security Council, this emergency UN Security Council, specifically to talk some things over. And this is what the UNSC is for some of the world's strongest powers to resolve the issues that emerged between them diplomatically. And this is exactly that didn't happen, the diplomatic conversation between Vitaly Churkin and Samantha Power. And it seems that they had a lot to discuss there because, well, first of all, according to Vitaly Churkin, the United States, if they carried out that airstrike, they violated 2 commitments that the United States had agreed on last week. That is, of course, not to attack the Syrian army, not to strike the Syrian army, and to commit to the ceasefire. Secondly, he pointed out the suspicious timing of the attack because, one, the Syrian army is stationed in Deir ez-Zor. The Deir ez-Zor, it's the region that's been hit by this airstrike. So it is kind of unusual of the United States military to assist the Syrian army because they're supporting, they're coordinating with the opposition. He even went as far as floating the idea that the American airstrike could be a provocation because, of course, the only side, and well, not the only, but one of the sides that is very happy with the airstrikes are Islamic State terrorists who are right now besieging the area. And also Vitaly Churkin highlights that the United States are not in control of the situation in Syria. And there have been a few troubling examples and that are proving this point. For example, one, the United States have been supporting the opposition. They've been training the opposition, and their trained rebels would eventually defect to the jihadists, taking American-supplied arms with them. And two, they've been working for months now on separating the so-called moderate opposition from the jihadis, like the al-Nusra Front, of course. And so far, they've been failing at this. So really a shame that the meeting didn't happen between Vitaly Churkin and Samantha Power. There's a lot to discuss. Well, hopefully on some other diplomatic levels, this won't really be an end to that very fragile cooperation established between the United States and Russia through the personal relationship of Sergei Lavrov, the Russian top diplomat, and, of course, John Kerry.
Russia and the US have been working to improve cooperation in Syria in the past few months. However, senior US politicians have repeatedly voiced their opposition to the moves.
I've said before that we believe Russia has the wrong strategy. Despite what the Russians say, we have not agreed to cooperate with Russia.
As you know, we are not coordinating on a military-to-military basis with the Russians. That has not changed.
Soraya Fass, a Syrian-American independent US presidential candidate, believes the current chaos in the country could have been avoided if Washington and Moscow had cooperated from the beginning.
The only way how we're going to combat terrorism is if the United States current administration, along with Europe and everybody else, takes this seriously and works with Russia, along with the Syrian current government, to get rid of these people. This is ridiculous what's going on, and I feel it's not just an intelligence issue. This is an act of America wanting to be, it's an ego trip. That's what I think it is. Had we participated with Russia, worked with them and their intelligence from the beginning of time, we wouldn't have the issues that we're having today, 6 years into the game.
Barack Obama slammed presidential candidate Donald Trump's appearance on this channel. Find out what he had to say after this short break. Don't go away.